Hi, it's Kate here, just coming to you this morning. Had a little bit of a moment that I thought I would take an opportunity to chat to you a little bit about parenting and parents' role in supporting young people, so kids and teens, and their mental health and well-being. So sometimes, as a child adolescent psychologist, we can kind of get lumped into this role, I suppose, of working with the young person. They get brought to the practice, or an inquiry happens, and there can be this sort of unwritten expectation that the professionals or the therapists are going to do some sort of magic with a young person and help them and fix them. That's partly our role. We're in the helping profession. That's part of it, and we have training in understanding psychological disorders and trauma, and all about attachment and relationships and things like that. So that's not a bad expectation to have when you bring a child, or when you seek help for your child or young person from a mental health or allied health professional. However, it's a lot more complex than that. So I suppose I wanted to just talk a little bit about that balance between the space that we create for the young person in a therapeutic sense, in terms of them feeling trust and safety, and having a space to explore perhaps what's been going on for them emotionally, or just unpacking kind of what's been bouncing around inside their mind, doing some psychoeducation, which is teaching kids and young people about the way their bodies and their minds work together, and sometimes how they can be caught in some patterns that are making things more difficult for them. So we can do some explicit teaching about well-being and mental health, and some skill development in that area as well. The other part, really important part of when you're working with a psychologist or child and adolescent therapist in some form or another, is to be thinking about the family role and the role of the system around the young person, because kids do not exist and young people don't exist in a vacuum. We know that the relationships that they have with their parents and caregivers and people who are raising them and looking after them and loving them is incredibly important in terms of what values are modeled in the home, what behaviors are encouraged, what kind of philosophy they have in life about mental health and well-being, and how that's kind of practiced on a daily occurrence. Because even if we are modeling and explaining and sharing ideas that are really helpful and useful, that usually might be for an hour a fortnight, or maybe once a month. It's in very small doses compared to the daily kind of interactions, and the every single day, every single moment that you're sort of spending with your child or teenager. So the role of a parent or a caregiver who is raising your child or your teenager, is incredibly important. So as a child and adolescent sort of therapist, and who works predominantly with kids and teenagers and families, the balance and the role between supporting the young person and letting them have their space, and protecting that, and having a really special kind of connection there to do some really great fun and to do some really great work together. It's equally important to develop that relationship and be mindful of the support that parents need going forward, because you guys are the ones that know your young person better than anybody. You have the most invested in having really good outcomes for your young person. That's why you've sought the help of therapists. And so it's really, really important that parents and caregivers who are doing the raising of kids have the right information and have the right support to reinforce whatever's being taught, in that, hour therapy session once a fortnight or once a week or however often that is, and are able to kind of feel that they've got the support to continue that practice on at home. So the parenting skilling up, or the parenting mindset part of child and adolescent therapy, is equally as important. And sometimes it can that can be a really challenging part of it, in terms of finding the time to do that, in terms of families seeing that as equally as important, or maybe not seeing themselves as being skilled enough to kind of do that part of it. But I really think that it is very, very important part of it, and it's like extending that team around the young person, so that when they have a question, or they have a query, or they forget to use their skills, or they don't quite know what to do, their parent is informed and knows how to encourage and support that. So that aspect of child and adolescent therapy is really, really important. And just having those parenting skills is super, super important. So it's why really I'm a very strong advocate for parents doing some sort of parenting course. My favorite definitely would be the Tuning Into Kids and Tuning Into Teens program, which is I'm running the Tuning Into Teens program at the moment, because I suppose it dovetails really nicely with my philosophy on emotions, and teaching kids to be in tune with their emotions, learn about how to express emotions in a really healthy way, and have that kind of philosophy reinforced at home as well. So working with parents on those kinds of topics, and giving parents the skills and the confidence to be able to respond to their kids' emotions, is really a step in the right direction, particularly when a lot of the times kids and teens are brought to therapy, or families are concerned enough about their kids that they reach out, that emotion regulation difficulties are the sort of the most common presentation that I'm seeing. So this is sort of seeing anxiety kind of presented in a really high form, or just that really big swing from high emotion to maybe low emotion, or maybe not showing enough emotion and then having big outbursts and things. So that's a really common kind of presentation, I suppose, that happens. And I know that the skills of becoming a good emotion coach, and feeling comfortable with children's emotions, and feeling comfortable with how to respond to them, is a pretty important part in terms of having that in our parenting toolkit, that we don't get overwhelmed by our kids' emotions, that we can have the responses that help our young people feel contained and feel safe when they're having big out of control emotions, because that can be kind of scary for them as well. And also it really helps, I think, to steer the lens away from sort of challenging behavior, and seeing kids as having problem behavior, even if some of those behaviors are causing problems for them and for maybe people in their environment. It kind of shifts it shifts to a more solutions focused, where we kind of go, okay, what's driving that behavior, what kind of emotions are coming up for the young person, and how can we support those emotions, how can we support them in that feeling, because they're obviously feeling very overwhelmed if they're having XYZ behaviors kind of thing. So that's sort of like the explosion, or the tip of the iceberg part. We want to sort of see what's going on underneath, and how can we help them regulate better, because no young person wants to be dysregulated in that way. It's not a pleasant experience for them. And so, teaching and helping families kind of shift their lens and their focus to understand that, and feeling confident that they are the ones that have the skills and have the abilities to be able to support their young person in that and get through the kind of crisis points and get through the really stressful parts, because it is stressful. There's no doubt about that. We're not going to sugarcoat it and say that it's fine, or if you do this in this order it's all going to be perfect straight away. It doesn't work like that. But certainly getting on board and having support to build your skills and build your confidence to be able to respond to that makes a massive difference. So just thought I'd come to you to just have a bit of a chat about that and see what your thoughts are as well, in terms of if you've sought help in the past. Was your idea that you would hand that over, or that you would get training in how to handle things or how to understand things differently? Because I think it's a really big and important part of seeking support is thinking that what am I going to be getting out of it, kind of thing. I want some ideas and strategies, but a viewpoint to understand why is what's happening, like why is it happening, and what's going to be the best path forwards in terms of, so I get really good outcomes in terms of mental health and well-being for my young person, and have faith that whether it's what you're doing already or whether it's whether you're going to implement some new things, is going to have a positive impact down the track. I think it can be really difficult sometimes to trust that what we're doing in the minute actually is going to have a positive impact. And so talking to people or being in a group where you're hearing other voices and you're hearing other ideas to sort of say, yes, this stuff really works, or stick with it, you will see the results, that kind of thing. I think that's really important, and it's why I think when I run my group parenting programs or group coaching, that aspect is really beautiful to see, the support and the confidence that comes with hearing stories from people around you. So something that I think is missing if you're just doing individual work, definitely. So in terms of reaching out and thinking, if you haven't done any parenting work, if you're wondering whether that would be suitable, I would really encourage you to look around and see what is available. Like I said, my favorite programs are the emotion coaching and tuning into kids and tuning into teens, but there's also the Circle of Security program, which is run from time to time online and in person, and I've heard really wonderful things about that as well. And again, it comes from very much an attachment and neuroscience perspective, so thinking about what creates calm, well-regulated, healthy brains for kids, and how does that kind of how do we do that as parents in terms of encouraging that and building really good relationships and things as well. So just thought I'd chat a bit about that this morning. I hope that's been useful. If you've got any questions at all, please reach out. And also just to let you know that hopefully later in the year I'll be running more tuning into kids and more tuning into teens with the support of each. And I've also got Spectrum Steps, which is my own coaching program coming up for another opening in August, which is sort of a 21-day program where we're going to be really working together to get a bit of a plan about how you can support your young person the best you can. And so that's more specific for parents of autistic or neurodivergent kids, but yeah, if that would be of interest to you, then just jump on to the link that I'll have with this video, and I will talk with you really soon. Okay, bye.